Great. So today we're going to welcome Sam Starr, an independent consultant focused on cycle logistics and sustainable urban freight. So welcome, Sam. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you are in the world and maybe a little bit around about your background?
Thank you, Ian. I'm here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm a systems engineer by training, and I've spent most of my career focused in logistics and supply chain systems and solutions. A couple years ago, I decided I really wanted to shift into the sustainability movement and focus on urban systems. And with that, I took a program at the University of British Columbia that is a master's engineering leadership program focused in actually understanding urban systems and sustainability, and inspired me to really focus on urban freight and kind of take this sort of hybrid focus between my passion for cycling and my passion for logistics and operations. So with that, I've landed myself really focused in the field of cargo bikes, cycle logistics, micro consolidation centers, and have really worked to develop an expertise in this field, attending conferences prior to COVID around the world, and thankfully have been having an opportunity to speak at a variety of other opportunities. So thank you, Ian.
Great. Um, so during the pandemic, it has been, I think we've all probably read the stories that, bicycles are on the rise, so to speak. Just have to walk out your front door to see all the different kids and families and what have you cycling around. But this is an interesting dimension on it in the sense of logistics and cargo bikes. Maybe talk to us, has a pandemic been good for cargo bikes? And then where more generally are you seeing if you want to say the market leaders, where are they having most success?
I think, yeah, the pandemic has definitely created a very unique situation for many families, especially now with working more from home and less sort of need for a car.
Hmm.
We're and a private automobile. We're definitely finding, we're obviously seeing this massive rise in e-bikes and bikes, but we're also seeing a big growth in the cargo bike market, as people realize that bikes can really be quite a utility for them, and possibly replace their SUVs or
Hmm.
other, for their runs that they're doing maybe 3 to 5 kilometers away typically. And so seeing that movement has been very exciting. There, I would say the market leaders in the space are a combination of great cities that have really started to take a really proactive approach, namely Paris, with Mayor Anne Hidalgo's 15-minute city. That's now being talked about in LinkedIn around more of a 1-minute city. Like, can we create more cities that are really just multiple neighborhoods all over? So like I see there's great opportunity with that, and that's starting to accelerate the need for cycle logistics as cities start saying, well, how do we bring back the space of the people? How do we social distance better? How do we build ourselves to be more resilient? How do we encourage? How do we as I mean, how do they in the government is really encourage private businesses, private and public businesses to use more efficient modes of
Hmm.
more efficient vehicles. There's still obviously the hype around electric cars and the hype around Teslas and the hype around and all that is still here and clearly prominent in the news. But what I think should be more talked about is the opportunity of the cargo bike and really and there are some manufacturers right now that are really taking that step forward and creating basically modular platforms
Hmm.
of vehicles, of actually it's a pedal assist cargo bike. That's the backbone of it. But the ability to haul a trailer, the ability to make it a refrigerated truck, the ability to make it a delivery van and have a modular container that can be preloaded back at a station for, let's say, a DHL or FedEx or UPS. So like the technology is there, the actions are there, and the market leaders are, in my opinion, are the ones that are not only the cities like Paris. Montreal is another one here in Canada that's really starting to move forward, and London and across the UK. It's been a great,
Yeah.
especially in light of Brexit. It's been really exciting to see how the UK government has really focused on active transportation, and is investing more in that. So, like,
And is it just is it, so you laid out kind of the the different shapes the vehicle, the bicycle, frankly, can take, right? And I hadn't even realized like it could be refrigerated. Of course, that makes sense, right? In fact,
Yep.
when I think about it from the US, the cargo bike I see most commonly is an ice cream cargo bike.
Yep.
So in the park, so you see them around everywhere, and you sort of forget how sort of multifunctional they are. So it can be used, and we have some customers that use them for pizza delivery, for example, right? So
Hmm.
range of different functionalities, super functional. But in you named a few big cities. Are they really only like what are the characteristics of the environment or the city that make these cargo bikes more appealing? Does it have to be a big dense city, for example, or where are you seeing most of the sort of the traction, if you like?
Well, I think that the cities that we're seeing the traction, so to speak, are the ones that actually are demonstrating the political will for change in sustainable freight and in rethinking how they want their cities to really truly operate and the quality of life for the people there. I mean, being able to use cargo bikes instead of vans eliminates a significant amount of CO2.
Hmm.
Like 99% difference in CO2 between a cargo bike, or 99% less, excuse me, um, percent less CO2 emissions from a cargo bike versus a delivery van, and giving the space back to the people. I mean, here in Vancouver, for example, and across all of North America, there could be 5 delivery vans that show up at a condo building at the same time. This is not efficient. And the only way we're going to start moving beyond that is if the cities start taking action. The city starts saying, well, okay, this zone has to be zero emissions delivery zone. This zone has to be, you're going to pay to move to like the London congestion charge, for example. You're going to pay to cross the line into downtown London or into our ultra low emissions zone. So the countries, the cities that are really taking that are willing to put the political will out there,
Hmm.
and they're just investing in the right infrastructure. I mean, Montreal, for example, I keep referring to here in North America. Montreal has built lots of protected bike lanes. They're looking at expanding their hub program. They currently have one in one of their old bus stations, and they're looking at expanding their hub program and their local services program for small businesses. And it's helping the economy. It's helping these businesses stay afloat. It's helping
Yeah.
provide a local service that people want. So I think the opportunity is definitely there, and I really hope that cities start taking that action moving forward. To your question about density is an interesting one. There's a lot of I mean, there's a lot of reports out there. There's a lot of academic articles around, where is the cargo bike most efficient, and to say, okay, it's in these high density locations, it's going to be a great thing. That said, really, it's a matter of where do you want to enable cargo bikes. So are you in an office park? Then you want to and you don't you want to limit the amount of delivery vehicles in that office park or estate, and you want to use cargo bikes for that primary form of just basic inter-office movements. Obviously not the big heavy stuff at the loading dock, but a majority of the other pieces. Or are you in or another good example is some of these sort of denser residential neighborhoods that aren't like dense city neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Um, if you look at the way Amazon delivers and the way a lot of these larger companies, service these large areas, they're driving their vans, and then turning them on to move them 50 yards down the street, then turning them off, then turning them on again, move them 50 yards down the street. And these drivers are not necessarily walking. If they may just keep doing that, and there should be an incentive for these areas to use cargo bikes. And of course, now the question goes, well, how do you activate that in a residential neighborhood? And the answer is through mini consolidation centers. The
Hmm.
concept of and parcel lockers is one great solution there too. All those things help reduce the carbon footprint of that delivery network.
Yeah.
And for these companies to be able to do that would be phenomenal. Now, putting a mini consolidation center or a consolidation center in a neighborhood, business down a commercial street, a high street, a main street, will definitely go a lot further. but those could also access those residential neighborhoods that are within a few kilometers away. And that's where that opportunity of being able to, you're now going to rebuild a new city center, which here in North America, or neighborhood center rather,
Yeah.
which here in North America is going to be critical, as more people are sort of staying home and staying near home and want to build better communities. So I think, so to go back to the density question, exactly. I mean, I actually really do think that density does play a role, yes. And when you do start a network, if you're a company investing in it, you do want to look at your high density areas first for working on cargo bikes, or for using cargo bikes. However, that shouldn't preclude you from saying, if you have a lot of deliveries in a in a residential area, or in a neighborhood that has a high street, that don't don't exclude that. Like, think about
Yeah.
that is an opportunity, and that will benefit that neighborhood, and that may help other businesses even get on board with being more sustainable as well. So there are solutions for this, and
Yeah, it
it's
totally makes sense to me. Even when I think about safety, when I think about, the various delivery trucks showing up and on the kids running around, and these big behemoth trucks being parked in the way and driving around them, just from a safety perspective. And then I hadn't really thought about it, when you said it, the pedal assist, right?
yeah,
Expands the range as well. So Sam, when we were prepping for this, we were talking a little bit about insurance, and so you have a little bit of experience. You kind of understand where it's relevant. I'd love for you to kind of articulate that.
yeah. While I don't ever claim to be an insurance expert, in a lot of the work that I've been doing, both with one of the nonprofits I work with, as well as some of the private, more of the private companies I've worked with, one of the biggest challenges has been insuring these vehicles. Now, if you're a big company like a FedEx or Purolator or UPS, like that, you just add it to your fleet, and it's a lot simpler. But for the small business that wants to either start running cargo bikes for delivery purposes, or the butcher that wants to use a cargo bike for food delivery, it's a whole different, it's a very tough market to try to understand, and even for the insurers to really get their hands around. Is this an asset, or is this an actual vehicle on the road, and what are the limits of liability, and where does all that stand? And I think that that's something that the industry really could use to clean up. Micromobility is going to be the future, especially for urbanites around the world, and cities are still growing. Granted, there's news that they're not that a lot of people, some people are moving out, but generally, the urban environment is still attractive, and still developing. So the insurance is definitely going to be key, and to make this simple. I mean, I can tell you, from even just trying to insure the bikes I have at home under a homeowner's insurance plan, I know that doesn't cover me in the case I get into some accident with somebody. um it does cover me if it gets stolen in transit somewhere, but it doesn't cover me if in case of mass. So, like, it would be nice to be able to have something very simple where, as a cyclist, I have an easy solution around that. And then with cargo bikes, it actually becomes more of a challenge because they're being used
Yeah.
for business purposes. And I
Yeah.
think that that's something that, whether it's going to be, that the light electric vehicle, the cargo bike, a scooter. I mean, businesses use all these things. Your guy delivering DoorDash or Skip the Dishes, or Uber Eats, is using one of those types of vehicles to get around. And I think, and of course, they're contractors in many cases, so that doesn't help either for them. But I think we need to, if we're going to look at this holistically, the insurance industry could really value from taking a look at the micromobility market, the shared micromobility market, and figure out how to better support that, particularly with cargo bikes and small businesses trying to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, the insurance industry is trying to understand it, unlock it themselves, right? And you're
Yeah,
absolutely right there. It's a new type of risk, and it seems simple, right? It's cargo bike, but it's
yeah,
got all these dimensions. So what's inside that bike? How quick does it go? Like, how often do they crash? The insurance industry doesn't know, and that becomes a little bit of friction then if you're a business owner trying to use them. So yeah, that's actually a space that we've played in quite a bit. So it makes a lot of sense. So um,
It is.
we like to wrap up these conversations by putting the interviewee on the spot a little bit, and it's really it's a tough one. It's sort of a what's going to happen in the future type of question. So it certainly seems to us from our experience and what you're telling us that the time is right for particularly for cargo bikes. So fast forward into the future, however you want to think of a year, 2 years, like what's your sort of prediction for the industry as you look forward?
So in the near term, I see a bit of struggle, and that's more because of the way the cycling industry is currently structured, and its ability to sort of mobilize to scale to meet this new peak in demand. That said, I think that if the cycling industry can pull through this, as well as if the private business, the companies that are building these cargo bikes, which are primarily more business to business, they're not going through the local bike shops, can develop products that are going to make this transition as seamless as possible, then I think we really have a great opportunity for explosive growth in the next 5 years. So what would make that happen would be bikes that are cargo bikes in particular that are as low maintenance as possible, that require as little as limited mechanical support, have a strong warranty and a service parts network in the case that there is something needed, um, and have a and builds a brand that people want to stand behind and utilize in order to support that, and not have to worry necessarily about getting to your bike shop if you're a business that your bike breaks down at 7 p.m. and that shop's closed. So and then you can't use it again until middle of the next day. That's a big problem. Um, so I think that serviceability and focusing on and building bikes that are less maintenance, of which the technology exists, uh, and demonstrating that value to the public, not just the businesses, but also families that are looking to shift into cargo bikes, for example. Like that's a really great selling point, and will help people want to pay that little bit that bit more in order to understand that, okay, this is going to come with less maintenance. Um, on that same token, I think what's also important is urban infrastructure. If we need to, the cities need to start investing in not just better bike cycling infrastructure, but also in consolidation centers and reusing some of their current assets that may be not fully utilized, or maybe like an old bus station, for example, or or something else that need or some old warehousing space, and turn those into not like logistics consolidation centers, but ideally innovation hubs that might that could help accelerate things like local manufacturing. Cargo bikes are heavy. Cargo bikes are they're not. It's not like that road bike, that carbon road bike you got that was made in Taiwan that you shipped over. Um, they are, because of their weight and because of their bulk, they're a lot easier to. They should be manufactured on a more regionalized level, and that would also better help accelerate this industry. And also, I think everybody kind of wins in that. Whether it be license fee to the manufacturer, startup business in the country where they're looking to get into, the local economy with jobs. It's a win-win for everybody. And I think that's really going to be that's going to be critical for the success of this business as well. And if we can start mobilizing those, um, the kind of design for service, but also the sort of local manufacturing approach as these businesses get bigger, I think that will help a lot. And that said, because a lot of these cargo bike manufacturers are a bunch of startups, there's value in collaborating. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to venture on you want to enter the Canadian market from the Netherlands. Let's just say you don't have to do it on your own. Why don't you partner with somebody else? You can share a parts network. You can collaborate, share a local manufacturing area. That will lower your cost of entry and actually open you up to a market. And I think that's especially now in the days of with our limited travel that we all have. Um, and the sort of unknown future in terms of how long this pandemic globally is going to last before we can return to, or hopefully, a new normal, but something that still allows us to be more mobile internationally. I think should be the way that a lot of these companies should think about, getting into new markets, explore, even exploring new markets, but also thinking about how do they grow their business outside of their main country of manufacture. So I
Right.
think that,
Well,
sorry,
thank
I know that was a mouthful.
you. No, but it's good because you're kind of unlocking it for us. I mean, it's from the outside, it seems like, oh, just rock up and buy a bike and away you go. But sort of the serviceability is pretty key to all of it. So, Sam, thanks for taking the time for painting the big picture for it for us. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Ian, for having me.